We are on Sotah, page 49. Sotah Daf and Tesam Aleph. This is the last page of this tractate and the last day that we're learning it during the cycle between Pesach and Shavuot. Rabbi Brechia said that if not for King David praying for the Jewish people, that when they go into exile, Hashem should take it and they should have wealth. The Jewish people will be selling what they call fats, which was very dirty type of work, and it didn't give much money, but it was also very degrading work. And Rabbi Brechia says that if not for the prayer of Habakkuk, will be so poor that two scholars would be covering themselves only in one piece of clothing and they would study Torah. He prayed that they should at least have, even though we're in exile, we should at least have wealth so the non-Jews respect us to a certain extent. Lazar ben Yeberchia says as well that two scholars that are walking together, and then also the words of Torah, they're worthy to be burnt in the fire. And it brings a verse. And the Rabbi Elia ben Yeverchia says, Rabbi Elia ben Yeverchia says that two Tamil Chacham, they're living in one city, but they're not getting along well in halachic. They can't talk together pleasantly about halacha. One ends up dying and one ends up going to exile. And he brings a verse that bli das, when there's no Torah, someone's going to have to run away. They can't stay in the same city. Someone doesn't necessarily die literally, but he's no more. Does he goes to exile? You heard the son of Chia said, any wise person that studies Torah, even though it's very difficult and is poor, his prayers will be listened. And it brings a verse. Ravo says that you actually satiate him from the rays of the Shekhinah of Hashem's presence. Like it says, your eyes will see your teacher, you'll see God. Rabachan, the son of Chedina, says that even the gates of heaven, the curtains of heaven, never closed before this person. Shimon, the son of Gamliel, says in the name of Yeshua, when the base of English was destroyed, it's no day that doesn't have a curse. The Gemara says every day the curse is worse than the day before. Like it says in the verse that in the morning they'll say who'll give evening, and evening they say who'll give morning. What morning are they talking about? The next morning? Who knows what the next morning will bring? Why are they looking so forward to it? So obviously what they're saying is that the morning earlier was even better because every day gets worse and worse. So how does the world exist if it gets worse every day? It lives on the Kedusha that the rabbis initiated to be said at the end of the prayer of the Valat Tziyah, and Yehesh Shmei Rabbah after we study Talmud. It says that at some point after Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, that there was no more taste in fruits, and the tal to do wasn't for blessing. And as it says, Tara, when there was no more purity, there's no more taste and smell for foods. When they stopped doing the meiser proper, the tithing, there was no more fats in the fish. It was gone. So Rab Huna found a fig that had a very good smell. So he took it, he put it in a little handkerchief, and then his son Rabbi came, so he said, oh, I smell something good. So his father said, wow, you must be pure because you can still smell it. Meanwhile, and he gave it to him. Meanwhile, Rabbi's son, his grandson of the grandson of Rav Huna came, and he gave it, and Rabbi gave it to his son, the grandson of Rav Huna. So the father said, Rav Huna said, on one hand, you made me happy because I see that you're pure, that you're able to smell. On the other hand, you made my teeth chatter. Why? Because I gave you something, and you pass it on to your son. This is what people say, that a father's Rachmanus is on his son, but that son who loves his son more than he loves his father. Ravacha, the son of Yaakov, says that Yaakov had a grandson because he had to bring up his grandson because his daughter died. He was an orphan. So when he grew up, his grandson, he once said, please give me water. He said, I'm not your son. So he says, this is what people say. You do whatever you do for your grandson, but then one day they'll tell you, I'm really your daughter's son, not your son. The Mishnah says, the last Mishnah, when the battalion of Vespasianus came, this is the time of the of the Hanukkah story when the Zionis came. I'm sorry, after the Hanukkah story, so that they came and they got into Israel, so they made a decree that there no more can be crowns for the Chassan, and no more types of drums you're allowed to play. When Titus, who ended up destroying the base of English, when his group Legion came, they said that there can't be any more crowns for collars for brides, and a person's not allowed to teach his son Greek. When the last final legion came, the one that destroyed the base of Migdash, they said a girl cannot be brought out. They brought out like in a bed with all beautiful clothes and jewelry. You can't be brought in such a bed. But the rabbi said they can do it. You can do it inside the city, not outside the city. When Reb Meir passed away, all of a sudden the people were able to give many parables, to be able to explain their deep thoughts was gone. When Menazi passed away, those who sat and studied Torah day and night in such a diligence was gone. When the Ben Zayman passed away, the Dashanim, those who were able to darshan, able to read into every single word and letter of the Torah, what the meaning is, was gone. When Rabbi Kiva died, the covered that Torah, the honor of Torah, Rabbi Kiva, even the crowns of Torah, he used to explain to show that every little part of Torah is special. When Rabbi Kalina ben Daisa died, the wonder people were able to do wonders and miracles ceased. Rabbi Yossi Katainta died. The Chassidim, those who were very, very pious, stopped. Why was he called Katainta? Because he was already even one of the smaller ones amongst the Chassidim. Rabbi Yochanan Mizaki died. The ray of wisdom was gone. And when Rabbi Gamliel Azakar, and Gamliel, the leader of the Jews, when he died, the Kvayda Torah, the honor of Torah was gone. It was still there till his days, and then when he died, it was finished. And what was gone was also the purity and the modesty. When Rabbi Shmuel ben Pavi died, the kahuna, the ray of kahuna, the beauty of kahuna was gone. And when Rabbi died, Batla Anava, the humility and fear of Hashem was gone as well. That's what the Mishnah says. So the Gemara says, and Pinchas ben Yair says, the day the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, all of a sudden Talmidei Chachamim became ashamed by those under them, and those the people who felt free. The people who felt free had to hide their face in shame, and the people who were doing good acts had to sort of were becoming less and less, and those who just pushed away with sheer strength and the charisma but really had nothing behind them all of a sudden moved to the top. And there was no one to talk to. So how could we still continue? The Gemara says, because we can rely on that the Hashem in heaven is always going to protect us. Lezer, the great one, says, when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, so all of a sudden the wise people became teachers. Everything went downhill. Wise people became teachers. The teachers became Chazanim, meaning the Beatles used to take care of all the basic happenings within the Jewish people, and the Beatles became like the simple people. The simple people was less and less, and there was no one to talk to, no one to talk about Judaism and about God, etc. So how do we last? Because we have the Father in heaven; He looks after us. It says in the time of Ikvas Mashiach, when Mashiach will come, on the heels of Mashiach, which is in our days, there'll be a lot of chutzpah. And also everything will be very expensive. So a lot of audacity, and also everything will be very expensive. Meaning there'll be plenty of vineyards, but still the wine will be expensive because people will be busy drinking all day long. And the kingdoms will be turned into minus, the heresy. No one will stop them, no one will scold them. The meeting place of the rabbis will become places of prostitutes. The Galil, that part of Israel, will become destroyed. The Givlan will become desolate. And the people live in the borders will go from town to town, and no one will have any pity on them. And the Seifin, the writers, their wisdom will rot away. No one will be interested in them. And Yerechei, those who have the fear of heaven, will be looked down upon, and the Torah will be dropped by everyone. Children will have chutzpah before elders. Elders will stand up for their youngsters. That's how much they'll control their lives. A child will disgrace his father, a daughter his mother, a daughter-in-law the mother-in-law. Your enemies will live in your own house. The face of the generation will be like the face of the dog. The child will never be embarrassed before his father. And how we're going to last? We'll last on our Father in heaven looking after us. So here we see how things in the exile go bad down further and further and further. He's not cursing us here. He's just saying what will be when we move more away from Torah and the ways of Hashem. So the Gemara says, Rav says, what kind of a crown is not forbidden? They used to make crowns out of salt, that they used to make all types of engravings in there. That you're not allowed to do. But a crown of myrtle, it's not a problem. Shmuel says even myrtle is too nice, you're not allowed to do. But reeds, the cheapest stuff you're allowed to do. And Levi says even reeds, you're not allowed to make a crown. Once the base of English was destroyed, now I'll do it for the kala. So we learned in the Mishnah that any type of crown you're not allowed to make. Valiris, and then the drums. What's the drum? So he says it's a drum with one mouth that was opened, let the music out. Rav Berhuna said he made his son a tambourine. So his father came and he broke it. So he says people will think it sounds like a tavla, the type of drum that's forbidden. So he says make something out of a jug or something with a very small vessel, which is used for very small measurements. When Titus's legion came, they said that the Kala's crowns are not forbidden anymore. What's the Kala's crowns? So he said they used to make a city of gold. They used to make gold, and they used to like carve it out like the city of Jerusalem. So we learned what's the crown of a Kala? It's like the city of gold. But you're allowed to make it out of wool. And we said at that time, even the chuppah for Chassan, they also said, what's a chuppah Chassan? They used to make something out of gold, all types of golden things hanging from the chuppah. So we learned that chuppahs Chassanim, you're not allowed to do it, but you're allowed to do it out of papyrus because it's much cheaper material, so you don't doesn't show on a great moment for Jews. So if you made a papyrus, you can hang whatever you want from it. You're not allowed to teach your child Yavanas Greek. So we learned when Bachas based on Shemnai were arguing with each other. So Hashmonaim took over the kingship of the Jewish people. At some point, became a civil war between Hyrcanus and Istrobolus. So Hyrcanus was outside of Jerusalem, Istrobolus was inside, and there was a civil war. So what happened was the people from the inside every day used to pull over the wall a few coins to get the sacrifices to bring on the Beis Hamikdash. So there was one person on the inside who knew the wisdom of the Greeks, and he sort of whispered over the wall, and he said, "You guys are fools. Every time you give them sacrifices, that protects them. So why don't you do something to disrupt their sacrifices?" So what they do the next day when they send money over the wall, they tied a pig to bring over a pig, which you're not allowed to bring in the Beis Hamikdash. And it says when the pig reached half the wall, it stuck its nails in the wall, and Israel, the whole Israel, shook for 100, 400 parsa. And a parsa is 12 meal. So that's a lot, a very big area. And that time they said, curse is the one that raises pigs in Israel, and curse is the one that teaches his son or child the wisdom of the Greeks. And in that year we learned that the civil wars make such havoc that they had to bring the Omer, the barley and the wheat from very far. Usually you have to bring it close to Jerusalem in the first sacrifice of barley wheat, but they brought it from very, very, very far. So Gemara says, how can you say you're not allowed to learn the wisdom of the Greeks? Rebbe said in Eretz Yisrael they used to talk Sursi, similar to the Syrian type of language. He said you can't do that. You either talk Hebrew or Greek. And Rabbi said in Babel and Babylonia they spoke Aramaic. He said why? Either talk Hebrew or talk Parsi, Persian. So he says there's a difference between the language of Greeks and the wisdom of Greek. The wisdom of the Greeks you're not allowed to partake in. The language is fine. So Gemara says, and the wisdom of Greeks are not allowed to partake. And then Rabbi Yehuda saying the name of Shmuel, the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. What does it mean? That he said a statement that our family, which was the leadership family, there were 1,000 children in the family. 500 studied Torah, 500 studied the Greek's wisdom, and the only ones who were left after Bar Kokhba revolt was myself and my first cousin in Asia Minor. So they say generally not allowed to learn the wisdom of Greek, but because they were close to the kingship and they were constantly hanging around royalty, they had to know the wisdom of Greek, or else they would not be able to affect whatever they needed to affect on behalf of the Jews. Like we learned elsewhere that there was a certain type of haircut, it was called kaimi, where they used to shave the front part of the hair and leave the back part of the hair fully growing. So that's not a Jewish way. But Avtalas, the son of Reuben, they let him go in that with that haircut because he was close to the kingship. That's why everyone wore the hair exactly. So they let him go with that haircut so he can mix with the people there. Sotah and Gamliel's children were allowed to learn the wisdom of the Greeks so they could mix with the people of the king's family. Not to assimilate, but just to be able to be effective for the Jews. It says like this: when Rabbi Yochanan died, wisdom was gone. When Rabbi Eliezer died, the Sefer Torah was hidden with him, meaning the Torah and its greatest holiness was gone when he died. Rabbi Shua died, all of a sudden there was no more people giving good advice. Rabbi Kiva died, there was no more Torah with strength. Torah is usually strength, because you always go deeper and deeper. It's like a wellspring that's constantly giving, and it became stuffed, the wellspring. Rabbi ben Azariah died, the crowns of wisdom were gone. When Rabbi Chanina ben Daisa died, the wondrous people did wondrous actions were gone. Rabbi Yosef ben Katenta died. The Chassidim stopped, and it was called Katenta because he himself was from the smallest of the Chassidim, the great pious people. When Ben Azai died, all of a sudden the people who were able to study day and night nonstop, with such a love for Torah, this ceased to exist. When Ben Zayma died, the Darshanim, those who were able to darshan and learn into the words, deeper meanings. When Shimon Gamliel died, many problems happened for the Jewish people. When Rebbe died, it became even double as bad, the difficulties for the Jewish people. And when Rebbe died, there was no more humility and fear of sin. So Yosef said, don't say there's no more humility because I'm humble. And Nachman said, don't say there's no more fear of sin because that I have the fear of sin. This finishes off Egla Rufa, the last of the chapters of Sotah and the Gemara, the ninth chapter Sotah and the Gemara of Sotah. Thank you for joining for this journey.